the EastSide Chapter 14. My mother was well known in the community for all of her social work, her bakery, and because she helped out and attended church every Sunday. It became mandatory for me to go with her every Sunday as well, but I stopped going after she passed. The last time I stepped into a chapel was the day of her funeral, and I've never been back since. That may have been the reason why I felt so strange stepping into a well populated church that Sunday morning. The rows were filled to capacity, and it seemed like every seat was taken in the building. That made me more nervous because I knew many of the people would recognize me as being Gloria Smith's son. The chapel was extraordinary, large in size, and very spacious. The preacher stood at the podium, ready to give his sermon, on a large wooden stage that was covered in white sheets, standing in front of a statue of Jesus hanging from the cross. I walked in with my father slowly through the main aisle, which was outlined in red velvet carpet. I could feel the stares and heard the whispers of the people as I walked by in my black slacks, white button down shirt, a tie, and my Converse sneakers. The usher spotted us coming down the aisle and quickly stepped in front of us to guide me and my father to the front row. I kept walking with my head down to avoid eye contact with all the people in the row staring, trying to get a good view of me to determine if their thoughts were right about me being Gloria's son. Once we got to the front row, we saw a space on the wooden bench to sit on, so the usher placed his hands out for us to sit down, and we did. Lily sat on my father's lap as I sat next to him on the row's edge, still nervous and ashamed about being there, since I hadn't been there in almost 3 years. I felt a comfortable pat on my back from an old wrinkly hand as I looked back to see Pops and his wife sitting behind us with a big smile on his face. I gave him a nervous grin back since I was still ashamed about how I acted the last time we'd seen each other. I knew Pops wasn't still mad at me. He was always a forgiving person. Glory to God, called out the preacher, who was wearing a long maroon gown, into a microphone as he stepped onto the podium. Glory to God, replied the church, except myself. I want to thank everyone for coming out for this glorious Sunday. Usually I have a sermon already set, but today I just want to speak from the heart and talk to all those lost souls out there today. Today is a special day because we are celebrating a life that was very special to all of us. I say celebrate because we don't want to be sad or mournful about her death, but happy and joyful about her life. And I want to give a special happy birthday to the late Mrs. Gloria Smith, said the preacher as I could watch his ring filled hand grab the ends of the wooden podium, while his other hand pushed back his unnatural shiny and curly hair over his ear. The crowd cheered at his statement as he placed his brown hands up for them to settle down so he could finish his preaching. Yes, yes, she was an amazing human being, and I had the pleasure of knowing her personally. I'll tell you a story about Mrs. Smith. Once the church was going through hard times, I mean really hard times, and we did not have enough money to pay for the electricity for that month. It was during the summer, and the air conditioning was using a lot of power. Then it broke. It was hard to afford all of these utilities, so we were considering closing down the church. My God, I prayed and prayed for some assistance from the Almighty. He blessed the church by sending an angel. Mrs. Gloria heard about our troubles and did not turn the other cheek. She went out and had a super blowout in her bakery and a huge bake sale at the church, baking night and day, just to raise enough money for the church. In 2 weeks, she had come up with the money to fix the air conditioning and help pay for the electricity. Praise the Lord! The people in the church commented loudly and cheered as the man continued his speech. I sat back listening to the story, surprised because I've never known about it. I remember her always working hard, so I never knew it was for anybody else but herself and the family. Yes, yes, Gloria, we will all miss you and the joy you brought me and the community. Is there anybody out there that would like to say a few words about Gloria? The preacher asked as a few people volunteered. One of them was Pops. A few people that I vaguely recognized stepped to the podium and said some positive words and stories about my deceased mother, which made my attitude shift slightly from gloomy to thinking maybe things will work out for the better. These people were very sincere in their speeches and made me feel so proud about being the son of such a remarkable woman. She had helped out the schools, she had started a youth program for delinquent kids, she had even given free baked goods to the needy, worked hard all day, and still managed to come home and give me the attention that I wanted. I did not realize how selfish I had been. I had the nerve to be so angry for her leaving, but not realizing that her death had done something that no amount of government regulations could ever do, and that was bring the community together for the good of the people. From policemen down to the hobos with no homes, they spoke nothing but positive words about my mother, which made me think about her as well and finally come to terms with her passing and finally forgive her for her death. The last member to speak was Pops. He stepped to the podium wearing a pressed gray suit and slowly removed his glasses before he spoke. Many people don't know that Gloria was not only a positive and kind woman, but she was a freedom fighter as well. She always spoke up for civil rights and minorities in this country. She believed and always said that all men and women were God's children, and we should all love and respect God's children. Discipline them when they are bad, but reward them when they are good. I marched with Gloria, and I fought with Gloria. I never once believed that I would bury Gloria, but her death was not in vain because she showed people how a real person was supposed to act with love and dignity. Now, not many people know this particular story, not even my wife, which might give me some trouble today, so pray she doesn't kill me when I get home. Pops joked as the crowd laughed. Gloria saved my life. That is how we met. She was 19 years old at the time, and I was in my early 30s. We both had very different lives at the time. She had just opened up her bakery. At the time, business was slow, and I was part of the crusades to bring equal rights to blacks in our communities. I was being chased by some men who were trying to kill me because I was causing too much ruckus. So I ran and found myself in her bakery. I was frantic. She said she did not want any trouble, but I pleaded with her that if these men found me, I was dead. She hid me behind the counter as the men walked in, and she was so brave and acted so normal. When the men asked about my whereabouts, she simply told them she did not know, but they could try a slice of pie on the house. Her bacon was so good that once the men tried it, they were only thinking about how good that pie was and not about me. The men left, and I'm still alive. But I did go to heaven once. I tried her pie too. Everyone in the room sat in their seats, silent and astonished by the story, especially me, who never knew about this. I sat there very attentively, listening to his story and wondering why after all these years, he'd never told me. Gloria and I spent the rest of that evening talking. We both wanted so much more for our community, even though we did it in our own different ways. I loved Gloria with all my heart. She was my best friend, my mentor, and a soldier in the battle for good. We need more of them in these troubling times, Pop stated, starting to get emotional. I always loved you, Gloria, and so will the rest of us. I hold you close to my heart in this life and the next. Happy birthday. Pops left the podium and sat down behind me again as I looked at him with much admiration. After I heard his story, everyone cheered for him as the preacher came back to the podium again to speak. Glory, glory. I am moved by today's participation. Is there anyone else that wants to say a few words? The preacher asked as his hazel eyes stared deep into the crowd. He has something to say, Pops yelled out while standing to his feet and pointing his finger in my direction. I looked at him astonished by the outburst and frustrated that he would place me in such an awkward predicament. I began to wave my hand to indicate that I did not want to speak, but the people in the chapel began to encourage me to step to the podium. This is Jahvon Smith, Gloria's only son, Pops called out again as I gave him another look to indicate for him to stop talking. Oh my heavens, Gloria's son! Come up here, boy, and say a few words about your mother. Come on, the preacher man said, waving his hand for me to come toward him. I shook my head as the crowd began to I shook my head as the crowd began to get louder and started to chant my name for encouragement. All I could hear in the entire church were chants of my name. Jahvon, Jahvon, until I could not do anything but follow their instructions and climb up to the podium. I got out of my seat as the crowd began to cheer. I reluctantly and nervously walked up to the podium to see all the people staring directly at me, which made me more nervous. I muttered, staring at all the people, not knowing what to say or do. My nervousness took over my body as I stood like a statue with sweat dripping down my forehead, watching all of the people expecting something great for me to say. But I had no words, just another, um, don't worry, son, the preacher whispered to me. Just relax. Just say how you feel. How I feel, I questioned, deep in thought on my feelings. I feel like a hypocrite, and I feel ashamed. Everyone has come out today to say something for my mother, a woman that was so special that she could bring the whole community out on her birthday even after she passed. And I'm supposed to be the son of this wonderful woman, but I don't feel so wonderful. I feel like I let her down. Pops and she did their best to bring positivity to this community. They gave their lives so my generation could prosper. But look at my generation. Look at me. She used to say, pursue your education, but I didn't. She used to say, violence isn't the way, but I've been violent. She used to say, take care of your loved ones, and I do my best to push them away. She used to say, love, respect, and take care of the people in your communities. But do we? But what do we do here on the east side every day? We fight, we kill each other over nothing, we sell poison to each other, we trash our own neighborhoods, or we hate each other. We are like savages. And we could blame the government, or we could blame our upbringing, but nobody said that you had to live in hell forever. Only we have the ability to change how we think, change how we live, and change how we treat each other. I've never been part of the solution, so I can only say I'm part of the problem. When my mother was my age, she's done so much, and all I've done is turn the other cheek, but not anymore. My mother stood for something. She stood for love. Pops once told me that true love can withstand anything, even death. And even in my mother's death, her love still carries on in me and in all of you. Now understand that love is giving without asking in return. Love is being good even when someone is not. Love is forgiveness. And love is God. I have been in this feud between love and hate for so long that I lost myself in it. But today, I choose my mother. Today, I choose love. Today, I change for the better. Starting today, I will make my mother proud of me. And today, I suggest we stop this East Side versus West Side thing because if my mother was here, she would just say, all that is fuel for the fire. While we should be concentrating on putting the fire out. Thank you, Mom, and happy birthday. I miss you every day. I turned to the preacher to indicate that he could have his microphone back and began to walk off the stage. But his swift hand grabbed my shoulder to turn me around toward him. He gave me a big smile and began to shake my hand and said, I couldn't have said it better myself, which made every member in the chapel stand to their feet and begin to cheer and chant my name again. Jahvon! Jahvon! Their praise and admiration brought a grin to my face. I even saw my father and Pops clapping and cheering. I looked at the giant photograph that they had of my mother, which at that moment looked like even she was smiling at me. From that moment on, I knew what I had to do. I had to end this beef. I had to set things right from what I had made wrong. The preacher finished his sermon for the day, so everyone began to vacate the tall white building, still patting me on my back and giving me compliments on my speech. I stayed humble during all the praise, knowing all I did was speak my mind. I walked outside myself and began to walk down the stairs toward the parking lot until I heard a familiar voice. Sneakers with a shirt and tie? No style, son, Teddy said, coming from the side of the church, sneaking up on me. Teddy, I said, surprised at seeing my oversized friend. Hey, buddy. Nice speech, Teddy said, patting me on my back. You were in there? I asked, surprised. Yeah, I was sitting in the back with my mom's. I did not want to sit up front, he explained. Yeah, me neither, but they made me. I haven't been in church in so long, I mentioned. You, he said, sucking his teeth. Last time I stepped inside of a church, I was skinny. His comment made me laugh as we walked toward the parking lot. You're a trip, TD. Yeah, he said with a smile, then turned to a serious frown. I was thinking about what you were saying up there. And you're right. We should do more to help out our neighborhoods and stop being delinquents. The only thing is we have that Rumble tomorrow. What do you want to do? Rumble is still on. That's the only way we can end this madness for good. The poppies won't listen to reason, so once we beat their asses to the ground, they'll leave and the beef is over. So no one has to deal with it again. I know what I said about nonviolence, but I feel like this is the only way, or the West Side will keep attacking us and the neighborhood. We are the line of defense. It ends with us, I explained. He nodded his head in agreement. You're right, Slim. And I got your back no matter what. Ugh, I'm starving. So I'm gonna go get some food at the house. but I'll see you tomorrow night. Cool. Love you, Ted. I love you too, Teddy said, walking away, but quickly turned around and started walking back toward me with a colorful card in his hand. Oh, I almost forgot. This is for you. What is it? I questioned while looking down at the card in my hand. It's an invitation to the West Island High School homecoming dance. It's to get in for free. Janelle's gonna be there. Oh, Ted, I don't know. I just go talk to her, Teddy interrupted. I've known you since the third grade. I know you. You want to see her as much as she wants to see you. Just talk to her when you're not angry, when you're ready to listen. She still loves you, bro. I stared at the card for a moment, knowing that Teddy was right. I did not give her a fair chance when we spoke. I was so angry and cruel. She probably hates me now, but we both deserve closure after everything that had transpired. Maybe, I muttered, as Teddy just smiled and gave me a quick wave goodbye as he walked away. I looked down at the card again, which read, Homecoming Dance, starting at 9:30 tomorrow night. Rumble is tomorrow night, too, I thought. What should I do? What should I do?